Okakura Kakuzo, The Book of Tea. On the day destined for his self-immolation, Rikyu invited his chief disciples to a last tea ceremony. Monthly, at the appointed time, the guests met at the portico. As they looked into the garden path, the trees seemed to shudder, and in the rustling of their leaves are heard the whispers of homeless ghosts. Like solemn sentinels before the gates of Hades stand the great stone lanterns. A wave of layered incense is wafted from the tea room. It is a summons which bids the guests to enter. One by one they advance and take their places. In the tokonoma hangs a kakemono, a wonderful writing by an ancient monk dealing with the evanescence of all earthly things. The singing kettle, as it boils over the brazier, sounds like some skater pouring forth his words to departing summer. Soon the host enters the room. Each in turn is served with tea, and each in turn silently drains his cup, the host last of all. According to established etiquette, the chief guest now asks permission to examine the tea equipage. Rikyu places the various articles before them with the kakemono. After all have expressed admiration of their beauty, Rikyu presents one of them to each of the assembled company as a souvenir. The bowl alone he keeps. Never again shall this cup, polluted by the lips of misfortune, be used by man. He speaks, and breaks the vessel into fragments. The ceremony is over. The guests, with difficulty restraining their tears, take their last farewell and leave the room. One only, the nearest and dearest, is requested to remain and witness the end. Rikyu then removes his tea gown and carefully folds it upon the mat, thereby disclosing the immaculate white death robe which it had hitherto concealed. Tenderly he gazes on the shining blade of the fatal dagger, and in exquisite verse thus addresses it: "Welcome to thee, O sword of eternity! Through Buddha and through Dharma alike, thou hast cleft thy way." With a smile upon his face, Rikyu passed forth into the unknown. Murakava, my Antonia. Antonia had always been one to leave images in the mind that did not fade, that grew stronger with time. In my memory there was a succession of such pictures, fixed there like the old woodcuts of one's first primer. Antonia kicking her bare legs against the sides of my pony when we came home in triumph with our snake. Antonia in a black shawl and fur cap as she stood by her father's grave in the snowstorm. Antonia coming in with her work team along the evening skyline. She lent herself to immemorial human attitudes which we recognize by instinct as universal and true. I had not been mistaken. She was a battered woman now, not a lovely girl, but she still had that something which fires the imagination, could still stop one's breath for a moment by a look or gesture that somehow revealed the meaning in common things. She had only to stand in the orchard, to put her hand on a little crab tree and look up at the outpours, to make you feel the goodness of planting and tending and harvesting at last. All the strong things of her heart came out in her body that had been so tireless in serving generous emotions. It was no wonder that her son stood tall and straight. She was a rich mine of life, like the founders of early races. Catherine Mansfield, The Garden Party. There lay a young man fast asleep, sleeping so soundly, so deeply, that he was far, far away from them both. Oh, so remote, so peaceful. He was dreaming. Never wake him up again. His head was sunk in the pillow. His eyes were closed. They were blind under the closed eyelids. He was given up to his dream. What did garden parties and baskets and lace frocks matter to him? He was far from all those things. He was wonderful, beautiful. While they were laughing and while the band was playing, this marvel had come to the lane. Happy, happy, all is well, said that sleeping face. This is just as it should be. I'm content. But all the same you had to cry, and she couldn't go out of the room without saying something to him. Rolla gave a loud childish sob. Forgive my heart, she said, and this time she didn't wait for M's sister. She found her way out of the door, down the path, past all those dark people. At the corner of the lane she met Lolly. He stepped out of the shadow. Is that you, Lola? Yes. Mother was getting anxious. Was it all right? Yes, quite. Oh, lovely. She took his arm. She pressed up against him. I say you're not crying, are you? Asked her brother. Lola shook her head. She was. Lolly put his arm around her shoulder. Don't cry, he said, in his warm, loving voice. Was it awful? No, sobbed Lola. It was simply marvelous. But Lolly, she stopped. She looked at her brother. Isn't life, she stammered, isn't life? But what life was, she couldn't explain. No matter, he quite understood. Isn't it, darling? Said Lolly.